So everybody should be able to hear me, which is good. So we're going to talk about starting off as a new raider today, guys. It's one of those questions I get a lot. A little bit about my background. I started playing MMOs with Ultima Online. Which was September 24th, 1997. I did start specifically on September 24th. It was around Christmas times when I started. But 1997. Back in 1997, I was 11 years old. I am now turning 34 next month. So that essentially... yeah, it gives me 2 decades of playing MMOs, which I guess that means I have no life. Apologies. That being said, I did not raid. I did not play EverQuest, which had the first similar to how this raid, how raids are now. The first game I played that had real raids was World of Warcraft, Vanilla WoW. I started raiding in Molten Core, so the very first raid that came out. Raided, I have missed now, well, not technically now, I could still go back and do this last raid tier, but I have missed technically 4 raid tiers, because I'm not going back for Nyalotha. And that's in 15 years of WoW. So... that gives me, all of maybe, if a raid tier 6 months, 2 years taken off of the game. I have raided in Final Fantasy 14 in, let's see, the first 2 tiers of Alexandria. I raided Savage. Did not complete either of the tiers on Savage difficulty. Then I went and raided the first tier of Omega Scape. Did not complete that, and sadly, I was fairly good at it. Delta Scape, excuse me, Omega Delta Scape. So here are my logs from my parses, as you can see. I knew what I was doing on Red Mage back in the day. Black Mage. Current parses look... Nope, that's my old parses. We want Eden's Verse. Current parses, not looking too shabby. This parse here on the Idol of Darkness I could definitely improve on. I think that parse I actually died on. So... no, I didn't. It was one of the few that I didn't die. So we're going to go over some of the things for starting up as a raider, what to look for, what to expect, how to get yourself ready, and, I'm going to walk you step by step, from preparing for week 1, clear up to being ready for, your first night. And prepping afterwards. So we're going to talk about some stuff that's a little bit more advanced, and you may not need it. First and foremost, you're going to notice that one thing I highly suggest, and I know people are against it, is to download ACT. Now, why do I say download ACT? There's 2 types of people in the world with ACT. There's the person that's going to make fun of somebody for doing shit damage, or talk shit, or be an asshole about it. And then there's someone else that understands ACT as a tool to better yourself. I'm hoping that everybody who watches this video understands that you need to be the second. You cannot be the first person. If you're the first person, that's the whole reason that ACT, all add-ons are banned in Final Fantasy 14. Just to be very blunt. When it comes to ACT, the reason I suggest it is, you can look at yourself and say, hey, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? How can I get better? What are some things that I can work on? I'm just going to get some numbers up on ACT. There. just so you can see it. I don't know why I went and got Huton up and everything for it, but so this is ACT. What it tells you is your DPS. If you are not familiar what DPS means, it's damage per second. It's a standard understanding of how much damage you're doing. Now, later on, we'll talk about actual damage DPS and RDPS and all that good stuff. But first and foremost, you're, let's say, a week out. You're getting ready for your first raid as a new raider. I'm going to assume that you've picked a job that you enjoy to play and are ready to play. And oh my god, I am switching the song. That is so annoying. So you've picked your job, whatever it may be. Does not matter. First and foremost, learn your job. The first thing I'm going to tell you for every single person, if you have not taken the time to sit down and read your skills, do that. Because some of these skills are straightforward. Blows their attack with a potency of 220. Okay, that's easy. Additional effect increases your nin key gauge. That's pretty easy. Now you guys can't see that because I got my stupid thing in the way. But we can go over here and look at 10. Makes a ritual mudra hand gesture for heaven. Okay. Triggers the cooldown of weapon skills, mudra and ninjutsu upon execution. Conversely, execution of weapon skills triggers the cooldown of this action. Okay. That may not make 100% sense right now, just because you may not understand the class. If you're at max level and getting ready to raid, I would hope you at least understand, your mudras, that you activate your mudras by using your ninjutsu skill, what each mudra does, things like that, how to configure your stuff. So we're going to assume all that. But read your skills. Does not hurt to read your skills. I promise. Because things like Tenshi Jin. If you don't read that and you're just like, I don't get it, Tenshi Jin can be confusing. But if you read it and understand, temporarily converts each of your 3 mudras into a ninjutsu action. Okay. Then you click it, you go, okay, all of them are Fuma. Okay, Fuma, Raiton, Suiton. Oh, sweet, I get it. You essentially follow the path to get to Suiton, if it's single target. So, that being said, the next thing you're going to want to do is set up your screen so that it works. So if you notice my screen, I've got a lot of open area right here. Why? Well, in Final Fantasy XIV specifically, they put a lot of markers under your feet. They really do. A lot of markers under your feet, a lot of markers over your head. So you need to have this room free. I know you might see other people that disagree, that have, 27 different things, blocking their screen right here. And that's just not right, especially for a newer player. If you're, Mr. Happy or somebody like that who happens to have a lot of raid experience and that's what you're comfortable with, go ahead and do it. But I highly suggest a simplistic setup like this. So, we'll talk more about ACT. That's why I kind of kept ACT short. Just an FYI, I know that there was a question. Why didn't you talk more about ACT? It'll come with time. You're a week out. What do you got to do next? Okay, I've read my abilities. I have a basic rotation. What do I do next? Well, the next thing you want to do is you want to go to this Discord that I have right here. If I can move it over. This is called the Balance. If you do not have the Balance Discord, it's a fairly easy invite. discord.gg/thebalanceFFXIV right here. Type that into your browser, and you're invited to the balance. The reason I say to do this is because you see all these resources. This is where you're going to go to get all of your information. So I main Dragoon right now. So this right here, you know, it goes over things. Look, this is your rotation at the different, you know, levels. 18 to 25, you'll do this. 64 to 80, you do a full combo rotation. You know, it talks about things like, hey, this is how your, you know, Dragoon openers should look. This is what happens. I definitely do not get my tincture clear to here. I will state that. I don't know how they managed to get that unless they hit it at, like, as they're running in. But, well, it's whatever. So, come to this Discord. It's got, you know, just read through some of this stuff. I know it's a lot.
Battery low.
There's a lot going on, and people are like, oh, wow, you know, I need to, you know all of this stuff. No, not night one.
Charging battery.
Not night one. Night one, you're going to fuck up. You're going to stand in the wrong place. You're going to get hit by shit that you shouldn't get hit by. We'll go into the what to expect here in a minute. But for now, we're just going to talk about, you know, the basics of getting ready. So once you've got all of that taken care of, you're on the balance, you've read through a guide or two, you're fairly comfortable with the class. You're like, hey, look, I kind of understand what's going on. I feel like I've got a feel for it. Then the next thing you want to do is practice your opener. The hardest part about playing most DPS will be inside the opener, and that affects how well you do as a DPS. Now, for something like a tank, your opener's not as important, but nonetheless, you still want to, you want to assist the team and do as much damage as you can as a tank. It is maybe not the most important thing you've ever done in your life. If you lose threat, misposition the boss, that's way worse than doing a ton of damage. But if you're assisting the team and killing the boss faster, the healers have to worry about healing less. The tanks have fewer, tank busters or cooldowns they need to roll, things like that. You have less mechanics, less chances for somebody's brain to just shut off, which mine seems to do an E7S every single time. So those are the things that you need to, hammer out, is inside your opener, be ready to go. Thank you, Sakari. So, openers. So, I've had this question in the past. I'm going to go over what an opener is. An opener is your first 20 to 30 seconds of a fight. So, I'm going to be on my ninja, which the ninja has a very packed opener, so that's why I'm going to show it to you guys. I think it's a good opener to show. So the ninja's opener is built around getting everything to line up with your trick attack. And I actually already messed it up. That's okay. So as you can see, I'm nailing a ton of buttons. So this is something else I really like going over. Keybind everything. There's no reason that you're sitting there clicking on buttons. If you could see, I can mash this button, I can move my screen, I can see what's going on around me. I don't have to, constantly be clicking. It's fine to have a button that you'll hit every 3 to 4 minutes on a click. Like, my potions are click. I don't hit Control V. It's a pain in the ass for me to do. But at the same time, I definitely highly suggest, if you can manage it, keybind every single thing. It's just, it's going to help you in the long run. So, now if you didn't notice, I messed up on purpose to kind of line my stuff back up. But that is essentially an opener. How much damage can you do inside of your opener? So as you guys can see, I was staying over 17k, which is a fairly good opener for a ninja. I'm not best in slot. I've got a few items that need some upgrades, but I do have the 505 weapons. So openers are important. Practice your opener, because that's where you're going to fuck up. That is 99% of the time where you're going to fuck up and you're going to be like, man, I'm a douchebag. Because it really matters. It is much easier to fall from a high number than it is to climb up from a low number. And I understand it's all in the laws of averages, but we're humans. And one of the things that happens is if you are not into esports, you get tilted. What does that mean? Well, it's a statement to basically mean that if you make a mistake, you make another. And then you make another. And then you make another. And it's just one of those things, like, then you've got this fight where you've died 7 times, and it's all because you made one small mistake earlier and you just couldn't stop thinking about it. So, that's week 1. Okay, now we're 3 days out. What do you want to start doing? Well, now you want to really start looking at your best in slot list, which, once again, if you go to the balance, you can find your best in slot list. They are usually in this type of form or in Arealis type of form. It doesn't matter which form you really find them. What it's going to tell you is these are your best, like this is the Eden Choir daggers. What I have on my ninja. This is what you're going to meld into it. Okay, easy. This is one of the reasons I suggest you look at it 3 days out. You need to get food and you need to get your tinctures ready. Okay? So, if you are someone that is brand new to raiding, do I want you to go out of your way to buy 50, 60 tinctures? So, I don't know what the current going price, because it's been a hot minute since I have bought any tinctures. So let's go with, I'm on Ninja, so let's go. So none of these are HQ, so I'm not even going to look at those. Okay. So almost $3,000 per tincture. Yeah, it means it's going to be a shit streak. So $3,000 per tincture. If you are brand new to raiding, you don't know if you're going to like it, should you spend that type of gil to buy 50 tinctures? That's kind of up to you. Do you have $150,000 to just drop on, tinctures? If so, I mean, sorry, ex-wife is. So, that's up to you. I highly suggest no. Maybe grab yourself some grade 2s. One second. Buy some grade 2s. I don't know how much the grade 2 tinctures are. Always buy HQ. Don't get the NQ stuff. So that saves you a bunch of money. Even if you're looking, yeah. I mean, it saves you, a bunch of money. You could buy these. You buy 10 of them for 20K. If you have 20K to spend, not a bad idea. So, next, food. Look up what your food is. Get a bunch of it. You need to have food and tinctures. That's all there is to it. If you're going for a clear, you need to be popping a tincture. Why? You want to see where your ceiling is right now. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't understand if if I'm still new to the fight, why do I care? So, sorry, I'm being berated right now by my ex-wife. So, when it comes to food, make sure you get the right food. It is expensive. You want to get high quality once again. And the reason for the high quality is what it increases on. So, there's not going to be NQ on here, is there? So, you see the determination by 10%, crit hit by 10%. What it increases, I wonder if there is any NQ on here. There isn't. It increases the cap on those values. It adds up to a higher cap. And that's what's important, because that higher cap good God. So, that being said, 3 days out, start getting your food and tinctures ready. If you have a friend who is an Omnicrafter, ask them. Next, once you have your food and everything, day before raid, what you're going to want to do is you're going to look at some raid strats. Why don't you look at them a week out, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out? You're going to forget all that information. Hell, when, you need to just look at them the night before. It is a very important thing to look at them, the day before, the night before. The next question is, where do I get these strats? Okay, so I typically use Miztech's guide. She is, in my opinion, one of the better ones. They're short, they're to the point. Now, she can be confusing. Mr. Happy's guides have gotten shorter over the years, but they're still, a little bit longer, and they can be convoluted at times. Zeno is another person, but his guides typically are 20-minute guides for a 10-minute fight. So, my suggestion is ask your raid leader. So if you have a raid leader, ask them who they're using, because they're going to pull their strats from that video. And if I were to go watch Miztech's guide, and then we're using strats from Mr. Happy's guide, it just doesn't end well. It's not good. Thank you, Raptor. So I highly suggest that you ask your raid leader who to look for. Now, like for the group that I'm with, Please Repair, we actually, for the first couple of fights, I write the guides. And then after that, we go off of Miztech's guides. And even during that, we do a lot of improvisation, because we're not a world first type raid group. We're not we're what, 6 weeks into killing Shiva now for our group, so we're not even, we're not that quick. We are good raiders, don't get me wrong, but we're just not that quick. So, that being said, ask your raid leader that. Now, watch the video the night before, and I highly suggest taking some notes. Just write down a few notes here, there, and elsewhere. Like, hey, this is what, this is how this mechanic works. This is how this mechanic works. And I highly suggest answering why you do what you do. If you cannot answer the why, you are blindly following somebody. And sometimes that works for people. I can't do that personally. I will never remember how to do the mechanic if I don't understand the why. So I always ask myself, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And the next thing is day of raid. What do you... Now, we're going to start with expectations and things like that. So first and foremost, what should you expect the day of raid? Well, it depends on your raid group. If you're going in with some more veterans, you may not have to expect as many wipes, but expect to wipe. If you're going in with a new raid group that has, a lot of newer people, expect to wipe a lot more. I want to say we were over 200 wipes on Shiva with Please Repair, and we're still a good raid group. I mean, we cleared it before Echo started. So that's. Now, does that mean every group's going to wipe all the time? You have to gauge on how the groups do it, and you have to set real goals. So if you're coming in there day one, it's your first day of raiding, what should I set my goals at? Honestly, set your goals at a realistic place. So maybe you should set your goals at, hey, in 2 weeks we can have the first raid boss down. Depending on how many days you raid, if you're like 1 day a week, maybe set that to 3 or 4. If you raid 2 days a week, 2 to 3, 3 days a week, 1 to 2. Set realistic goals. So expect to wipe, expect to, you're going to get angry at people. Expect to get upset. Expect to, people to call you out. All of that's perfectly fine. If you get called out for doing something wrong and you don't agree with them, don't get aggressive. Sometimes I could do this still. 15 years of experience, I still do it. But at the end of the day, understand that, if you get called out, you got called out. There's probably a reason. And if it's somebody that's a more experienced raider than you, then just kind of take it on the nose. If you're not good at, wiping, if you're not good at, taking constructive criticism, raiding may not be for you. Just to be very honest. It is an environment where you have to grow and you have to, you have to grow. And that's all there is to it. The next thing I would say, the day of raid, prep yourself with water. I know this seems stupid, but if you get dehydrated during raid, your performance does go down. Make sure that you're, well rested. You may be excited because, hey, look, this is my first time ever getting into a raid. I'm super nervous. So, vibrating, enough that you can walk through a fucking wall. So, understand that you're gonna be, and if you're somebody that's like, I get so worked up that sometimes I can't function. I don't normally condone this, but maybe take a shot at something, just to calm your nerves, one small shot. If you're a lightweight, don't do that. Please don't. You don't want to go into your raid drunk, your first raid drunk. But if you're someone that's like, hey, look, I want to show up and I want to do well, but I'm so nervous that I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Maybe take a shot of some vodka or a whiskey, maybe just a small sip or something. Settle yourself down. Nobody there is there to judge you. And if you are in a group where that's all they're doing, get out. They could sit there and say that, oh, well, I, was a super, raider, yada. I have rated at U.S. top 100, U.S. top 200, U.S. top, 100 again. At no point was anybody in that group there to judge every single other person. We were working as a team, and we were only as strong as our weakest link. Now, did I always believe that? No, and I will fully admit that. I've grown up since then. And when raiding with these U.S. top 100 guilds in WoW, not in Final Fantasy 14, but in WoW, you learn that. That it's not about, hey, look how big my schlong is. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit if you're fucking, purple parsing, blue parsing. Now, if you're gray parsing, there's probably a problem. We'll talk about parsing here in a minute. And hello, Merlin. I'm sure that you all heard my cat. Yes, your parse points. That being said, it is now time for raid. What should you do? 1, turn your music off. But I'm more relaxed with music. If you are listening to music, you are going to miss callouts. Just all there is to it. You're going to miss your callouts. At some point in time, the raid leader's going to call something, and you're going to be like, oh, wait, what? I didn't hear that. And then you're on the deck. You're dead. So, turn your music off. Be nice to your raid leader. That way you can hear what they're saying. Now, as you get more experience, sure, turn your music on. I play music while I raid. I stream. I can talk to my chat. I can have, a conversation. Then again, I have also now been playing Dragoon for over a year. And it kind of comes natural. My fingers literally just go to the buttons they need to press, and a lot of times buttons I shouldn't press. But once you get into raid, what should you expect? Expect the raid leader to go over mechanics, how they go over them. Each raid leader is different. My personal raid leading style is definitely not the same as everyone else's. Mine is, I believe that you will listen to me for at most a minute and a half. If I go over a minute and a half, everybody wave to Raptor. If you go over a minute and a half talking, you have lost everybody. At least 80% of your audience is gone. So the way I do things is I will talk about the first couple mechanics we'll see, or if it's broken into phases, maybe I'll talk about one phase, and then we do that. Then we wipe, and then we talk about the next mechanic. Then we wipe. One of my personal things is I like to do this quick, so it's not one of those things like we're going to talk about this mechanic for 2 years and try and figure it out. We're going to go in there because a lot of people are just visual learners. Now, did you just watch a video and you visually saw it? Yes, but everybody learns a little bit different. So there's going to be some people that go in there, they saw it, they kind of understand what's going on, but they don't fully understand. Okay. Not a problem. They'll get it sooner or later. So it's the night after, you just got done with raid. What next? So we're going to talk about a few things that are a little bit more advanced now. The first and foremost, we're going to talk about ACT. Now, at the beginning I told you that you should probably install ACT. Now we're going to talk about why. So, ACT, like I said, gives you your damage per second. Why is that important? Well, you want to gauge where your ceiling is. Like I said before, that's why you use your potions and stuff like that. You need to know where your ceiling is. What do I mean by ceiling? You want to know where your max DPS is. How good are you doing? So, if you were to say, hey, look, I'm in 500 gear and I'm a Dragoon and I'm doing 13k DPS on the E7S, you're probably fucking up. So, that kind of, that gives you a chance. Now, does that mean that you get to make fun of people for, their DPS? No, because if you're new, you probably don't fucking understand why their DPS is the way it is. And if you don't understand why, you need to shut up. So, in Final Fantasy XIV, I'm going to show you a website that I go to all the time. I'm going to turn my ACT off so it's not in the fucking way. We're going to go to Final Fantasy Logs. Okay, so this is one of my favorite websites. There's also Warcraft logs, and there is logs for ESO. I don't know what the website is. They're all curated, all written, all done by the same person. If you want to know who that person is, let's see if I can find them on Twitter real quick. I can never find them on Twitter. to save my life. Did I misspell it? You know what? If I don't find it here in a second, because I know they just posted something not too long ago. Now, lost it. So when it comes down to it, the reason I love this website is it is so useful. It is more useful for WoW. I'm not going to lie to people and say that it's not, but it is still extremely useful. It is a website that essentially allows you to. I am going to find this person. There it is. So, this is Kira, and I did misspell it, by the way, if you were wondering why I couldn't find it. Missed the H. Put it in the wrong spot the first time, actually. He actually runs Warcraft logs, FF logs, and ESO logs. He can be temperamental if you tweet at him, but you got to understand how many trolls and assholes he deals with on a daily basis. Probably more than most of us. So, that being said, this will also show you statistics if you know how to bring them up. So, first and foremost, we're going to look at standard comps over 2 weeks and just kind of look at, the DPS. So, that being said, this is kind of the breakdown right now of where the classes are. If you don't understand, that you're playing Samurai and you're doing more damage than your Bard, probably should shut up. Just saying. Now, that being said, I know that a lot of people on their first raids would never do this. Now, the reason that, Final Fantasy logs and all that is great is because if I were to go to my logs for Ramu, my 85th percentile parse, okay, I did really well. Okay. So what you can look at and see, where did I mess up? So, I had 7 true thrusts. So, there is not a ton of downtime in this fight. So that means I missed a positional 6 times. Maybe not 6 times. There is a little bit of downtime. Let's go with 4 times. Something I can definitely work on. So I can look at this and go, okay, I had 8 Star Divers, 16 Mirage Dives. That's correct for a Dragoon. Just, take my word on this. It's correct. It's just little things like that, like Nostrand. I actually missed. See, that gives me 8 times. I should have 2 more Nostrands. I know where they're at. I know where I fucked up. That being said, this is a great website. You can look at stuff like buffs, debuffs, are your buffs lining up correctly, things like that. Now, if you're day 1, is this something you're going to look at? No. But you'll hear about percentile rankings. And that's what this is right here. So, this is the rank I got, 84th percentile. What does that mean? That means that I was better than 84% of the other Dragoons out there. And there were 14,000 parses. So I was about 2,244. Somewhere in there. That's really good. It's a really good parse, So, the reason that these are... So, rankings, a lot of it is PP, parse points, as Raptor will call it, is PP. But the truth is understanding how well you're playing your class. So if you are in here and you didn't die, you thought you did really well, and you got a 10th percentile. Okay, there's a couple things. One, if you're in this raid tier, you're going in brand new, a 480 versus 500, you're just going to get shit on. Your damage you might get a green parse, which would be 25th percentile to 50th percentile. Your goal as a new Savage Raider is, once you start catching up to the curve on your gear, is to get blue parses. So that would be 50th percentile to 75th or 74th percentile. Okay? Why blue? That says that you have a good understanding of your class. You've got a decent understanding of the mechanics of the fight, and you're combining the two. green parses happen. I can go back to just looking at, let's, look at that. Look at that. Bunch of green, bunch of gray. That's just what happens. You're unless you go look at like Xeno, you're gonna get a bunch of different colors in your parses. We could also go look at someone that's better than me. Go look at this parse, and then we look at Shara. So as you can see, even Shara, who is an incredible summoner, an incredible raider, almost 90th and 11th percentile. It happens, but as you can see, she's constantly getting better. So understanding that is important. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about, and this can get a little hairy, is RDPS, ADPS, and the infamous, let's go back here, percentile log, parse percent. What do they all mean? So you'll hear people talk about a lot of these different things. First and foremost, you're going to hear people talk about ADPS. That's your actual DPS. That's your actual contribution in just flat numbers. This is what I gave. This is what I did to the fight. Neglecting, for the most part, there are some exceptions to this, but neglecting party buffs. RDPS accounts for that. Accounts for your party buffs, says, hey, look, this is what you contributed. This is how much you're getting back out of it. So if you notice, my ADPS was 668.4, RDPS 860.5. If you look at Asher, 15628, 16667, your RDPS on most classes is going to be higher than your ADPS, except for possibly like your samurais and black mages, who really don't contribute a lot. As you can actually see, their ADPS is actually higher to the party. And the reason that their RDPS would actually be lower than ADPS is because it takes your ADPS is just, your flat damage. Well, it takes those numbers away from that person and gives it to the person that gave them. So like when I give Dragon Sight to somebody, that's a 5% damage buff. So let's say they're doing 1,000 damage during that. I get 5% of that onto my Dragoon in the RDPS category. Whereas in ADPS, they keep it. Okay? And then the parse percent. This is the one that could, confuses everybody. Okay? So the parse percentile is essentially what it does is this ranking system ranks you for the best score on a said fight just across the time of that fight. Okay? But for parses, it's in a certain window. For Final Fantasy logs, I believe it's 2 weeks. I don't remember. But I believe it's 2 weeks. So that's how it works. That being said, I talked about ceiling and floor. So for me, on this fight, this is probably my ceiling right here. Almost 18k DPS on Ramu. That's awesome. But my floor, right now, assuming I die a lot, is pretty low. But your ceiling is your highest, your floor is your lowest. Okay? So like, you can see on Shiva, all the other fights, 16k is my floor. Then all of a sudden 14.4, understanding the fights. Um, looking through these logs and trying to figure out things, and I highly suggest you just play with the logs, because looking through it, I'm not going to go through this. I have several videos on my YouTube on how to go through Final Fantasy logs, Warcraft logs, what to look for, how to find stuff, different things like the timeline, the events log, the replay function, all of this stuff. All of it's there. You can find it. I'm not going to go through it, but go look through it, see where you're standing. Say, hey, look, it was gray parsing. You're probably going to gray parse. Don't take your parse to heart. Just don't. If people start making fun of you for your parse, fuck them. I do believe that's pretty much it. The next thing I would suggest over the next week until your next raid is just talk to your raid leader. See if there's anything in specific they want you to improve on. I'm sure there are things. But that should be it for me. I'm going to upload this video. I'm going to highlight it, upload it, get it sent off to YouTube, and then I'll post it to the FC Discord for people to look at. But those should be everything. If you just start from the very beginning and start looking at, hey, look, do I know my class as well as I think I do? Do I have a good UI set up? Clear down to, hey, look, I'm starting to look at Final Fantasy logs and understanding what's going on during a fight. You're not going to be a savage raider in a week or two. It's going to take you, honestly, for me to become a really good raider, it took years. But I was also hard-headed as all fuck. But I've seen people go from not raiding ever to a really good raider in a couple months. So, the last thing I'm going to say is talk to mentors, people that have raided, such as myself. I've offered to help anybody that is requesting assistance on melee DPS. So these are the classes. All melee DPS I'm comfortable talking about. Tanking, in general, I'm good with talking about. Even though Red Mage isn't leveled, I know Red Mage pretty well. Like I showed at the beginning of the stream, 95th percentile parse and Stormblood, and it hasn't changed that much. The bare bones basics of Black Mage I could talk about. There have been some changes, but not a lot since Stormblood. And that's about it. Don't ask me about the physical range DPS. I don't know a fucking thing about them, but I can point you in the right direction. If you want to have questions specific on fights, yes. Like I said, I write the guides for Please Repair, or, at least help write the initial guides. And that should be it. Thanks, guys. I'm going to get this video uploaded, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.